It's Thursday, March 6, 2025. Thanks for joining me today. A lot to talk about. Things are accelerating at a pace we have never seen before. I think where I want to start today, grab a coffee, hot, cold, whatever your choice of beverage is, sit down, relax for a few minutes, and let's talk about what's going on here. I think we're witnessing the attempt of the United States breaking away from globalism, a country now that is beginning to try to break away from globalism, beginning to try to become more independent, more self-sufficient, manufacturing, producing more things right here in America, building more factories, becoming more independent and less subservient, less dependent on other countries. And I think it's time that America stops worrying so much about Wall Street and we go back and we start worrying more about Main Street. We start worrying about jobs in this country, start worrying about our currency, worry about the average worker in this country. I think that's where we better start going. And I'm seeing some effort that we're heading a little bit in that direction. You know, as a country here in America, we have so many resources, minerals, food, energy, you name it. We have massive amounts of resources right here, yet we are dependent on so many countries. I mean, we're importing more food than we export at this point. And why that is, it's globalism. It is globalism. And we've got to now, if America is going to survive, we have got to start depending on ourselves. We need to be manufacturing, making things, not exporting jobs. We need to be bringing jobs back to this country. And same thing as individuals. We need to be, as an individual, more self-sufficient, not dependent on the system, not dependent on other people, more self-sufficient and more dependent on ourselves. The whole point of globalism is to punish nations for acting independently. And so the more you see this administration trying to bring things back here to America, you just see all this chaos taking place. And I was watching one of the politicians from Canada today. I believe it's the person in charge of their energy, and very, very angry at this administration. They want us dependent to buy more energy from Canada when we could do it right here. And you're going to see a lot more of that. If the U.S. is to become independent again, you better expect pain. Not a little pain, a lot of pain. And you better be prepared for it, because we may be heading in that direction. There's going to be so many world and global leaders coming out condemning what America is doing, the tariffs. They don't want us to be independent. We become so powerful as a nation when we're not dependent on other nations. And you become more powerful as a human being when you yourself are independent and not dependent on the system, not dependent on somebody else. I think it's really, really important now. I think this is probably the most important time in our history to be as independent as possible, to not be depending on the system for protection, for housing, for food. And I know there's people out there that, have to use this because, they don't have a choice. But if you do, if you're able-bodied and you can work, you need to get out of the system as soon as you can. There's a lot of people that still make excuses out there why they depend on the system, yet they're able-bodied, they're 28 years old, there's no reason. Do not enslave yourself in this system, ladies and gentlemen. This is a system that is going to collapse, and when it does, it's going to take you with it. Private employers added just 77,000 jobs in February, far below expectations. ADP says this on CNBC today, well below the 148,000 expectation. Leisure and hospitality jobs jumped by 41,000, so we have more people just in the service sector realm. And I don't know how this country is going to continue to be a world power when most jobs that we see month after month are in leisure and hospitality. Construction saw a 25,000 job increase, which is good. Professional businesses added 27,000. That's good, but only 77,000 overall. People are going to look back at some point and wish that they had a job. They're going to wish that they didn't give up that job. You know, we saw all these people quitting. They were going to find another job, or they were just going to milk the system. There are going to be a lot of people regretting those choices that they quit their job. Whatever you do, do not quit your job at this point. We are in a time now where you just don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen tonight. There's going to be a lot more people losing their jobs. There's so many people losing jobs now. A job is going to become a luxury. It really, really is. If you are doing something that's not your passion, maybe you don't enjoy it, you don't like your boss, if it is paying the bills, stay put for a while and let the dust settle. We've got a good year at least before we see how this thing shakes out. I think it could be a couple years of just uncertainty and chaos. Thor Industries stock sinks after RV maker swings to loss, cuts outlook. Yesterday, they were down 15%. They came back a little bit today. For the month, they're down 14%. Sales of motorized vehicles in North America and RVs in Europe sunk. They posted a second quarter fiscal 2025 loss, and they are seeing a massive slowdown in demand. Would you go out and buy an RV, a camper, a fifth wheeler right now? People just aren't doing it. Every time I drive by these lots, they are packed with inventory, and I seldom ever see anybody on those lots shopping. But the RV industry is still in very, very big trouble. And I think that we need to come to the realization that this is now a silent depression, and it's going to get louder. And we're going to see more job layoffs, more restaurant closures, more retailer closures. We're going to see some really, really hard times here in America. And as many of you have said, as I've said, this country is going to have to go through a collapse. We need a reset. We need to see a revaluation of assets. And we cannot keep just kicking the can down the road. We cannot just keep praying and hoping for cheap money. We can't just keep turning on the money printers and printing up tons of money, creating more and more inflation. The party is coming to an end, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the reality of it. And I've been making these videos for some years, and some people will say, well, I'm just reporting the same thing every day. Well, I got a stack of news here, and it comes out every day, and I'm reporting it every day. I'm reporting the latest data, the latest numbers, the latest layoffs, the latest stock market numbers. So I don't know how it's the same every day. This stuff is accelerating. It's changing so quickly, and you need to be really observing what's going on and evolving in your lives, preparing for this. Over these years, I've been warning people to prepare. Not that I have a crystal ball, not that I'm a genius, not that I'm a prophet. I'm just, connecting the dots like most of you. And we have seen trouble for many, many years. The trouble just didn't start 5 or 6 weeks ago. It didn't start just 4 or 5 years ago. It started many, many years ago. And we've seen the evolution of this depression now that is getting more and more difficult to sweep under the rugs, because you cannot sweep under the rug all these job losses, all these store closures, all of these manufacturing closures. You just can't do it. You can't just sweep under the rug these mile-long food lines. How many people, 44 million people in this country on food stamps. You can't sweep under the rug the amount of debts and deficits now. They're just enormous. And so you need to be observing and paying close attention so that you can protect yourself and your family. Layoff announcements soar to the highest since 2020 as Doge slashes federal staff. In February, employers announced 172,017 layoffs. That is up 245% from January. And people over the years said, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. This is all doom and gloom. This guy's very negative. Look, it's not a matter of who's right or who's wrong. It is a matter that you take responsibility for you. You don't need to listen to me. You don't need to listen to a troll. You need to pay attention to what's going on because this is going to get much worse. And over the years, people would say, oh, when's it going to collapse? JB, you've been talking about this for 3 years. And I don't know how blind you must be to not see every day it was collapsing a little more, collapsing a little more, collapsing a little more, death by 1,000 cuts. And here we are. What are we? $36.4 trillion in debt, 172,000 plus layoffs in February, and it's going to get much worse. I don't know about you, but I have never seen so many businesses closing up as I do now, and I've never seen the economy in the shambles that it is in now. And this didn't just happen over the past few weeks. This is years and years, and we could argue decades of economic destruction here in America. 1/3 of these job losses were federal, 62,242. Be ready, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get much worse. If you have a government job, you are walking on thin ice. You better be very, very careful. And honestly, it doesn't really matter. Nobody is immune from a job loss at this point. These companies are cutting the fat. You got Doge in there cutting the fat with these government jobs. And it's going to get more severe as we get closer to the summer. And it's going to be very interesting to see where we're at, maybe around June, July. Popular Tex-Mex restaurant chain files for bankruptcy. On the Border Mexican Grill. Many of you probably seen this place, been to this place. They've now closed 40 locations. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They have 40 restaurants remaining. They said that they've just seen a decline in traffic over recent years, not over recent weeks, over recent years, a big decline in traffic. Less than a year ago, people would write me and tell me that the restaurants are doing great, the restaurants are packed, I don't know what I'm talking about. And look, maybe the restaurants in your area are packed, but I'll tell you what, On the Border Mexican Grill isn't packed. They're in bankruptcy. Here's another one. Red Robin considers closing 70 locations amid financial woes. Another one. So maybe your restaurants are packed, but a lot of the restaurants across America are not packed. In fact, they're gone or they're going to be gone. They're filing bankruptcy. Red Robin recorded a loss of $32.4 million in the fourth quarter of fiscal 2024. This is just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. And look, this gives me no satisfaction at all. I love restaurants. And even though I don't go out to eat as much as I do, I really wish the economy was booming and there were so many great restaurants out there and the food was wonderful and the prices were wonderful and people could go out and enjoy a great meal for a great price. Problem is, it's gotten too expensive. The food's gotten too expensive. Labor's gotten too expensive. The leases on these restaurants have gotten too expensive. And these places just cannot make it. And so a lot of them have cut costs. They're cutting corners. They're cutting quality of food, cutting service. And it's just, it's unfortunate. I wish we were in a different place. And hopefully at some point this will turn around, prayerfully, and that we'll see a boom, an explosion of new restaurants, quality, and better prices. I pray. Who knows? But it's going to get much worse before it gets better, that is for sure. And I don't know if it will get better. I pray that it does. One thing I'm pretty sure of, it's going to get much worse. Let me know your thoughts on that. Comment down below. Is it going to get better? Or is it going to get worse? Here's another one from the Daily Mail. Trump moves to sell off FBI and Department of Justice headquarters and purge of non-core government buildings. The administration has published a list of more than 440 federal properties to be closed or sold off after deeming them not core to government operations. This is 80 million square feet of real estate. And as we're getting rid of all these non-essential workers, we're going to be getting rid of apparently a lot of non-essential real estate that the taxpayer had paid for that we probably never really needed. So you're going to just see more ghost towns across America of vacant buildings, vacant retailers, and vacant restaurants. But things are really, really moving fast. Treasury Secretary Bessent says the American dream is not about access to cheap goods. I agree 100%. But what happens when Americans don't have access to those cheap goods? They're going to be upset. But it's shocking that they weren't upset years ago when their jobs were sent over to Asia and they were told, hey, we're going to send your jobs over there, but don't worry, you'll be able to go to Walmart and buy cheap goods. And now those cheap goods aren't so cheap anymore because your jobs and U.S. companies took off and went to other countries such as Asia. And It was nice to have cheap goods for a while, but here we are. We're dependent on other countries. And what happens when those cheap goods are no longer cheap? And this is the problem with globalism. This is the problem that America's had with, global trade, the global markets. It hasn't fared, so great as of late for America because prices are going up and people don't have jobs. And we've really been losing out in the, global trade world, in my opinion. These countries like China, literally 40, 50 years ago, half of China didn't even have electricity. Look at them now, world superpower. Four biggest banks in the world, biggest military in the world, arguably the biggest economy in the world, biggest manufacturer in the world, biggest gold holder in the world. It goes on and on and on. And literally 50 years ago, half the country, you could fly over, it didn't have electricity. But here we are, now reliant on these countries, making them wealthier and more powerful, and they're going to be adversaries to America. And don't think for a second that America could just go, in and wipe out China. If something happens in Taiwan, China is a very, very powerful nation. The technology that they have now, the weaponry, the size of their navy, their military, that new supersonic jet that they just came out with. And this isn't to, prop up China. I don't plan on moving there anytime soon. I love America, but we have really fallen asleep at the wheel here. And as we now are dependent on these countries for so many things: food, minerals, automobiles, metals, aluminum, steel. I mean, things that we never, ever were dependent on. Pharmaceuticals, probably one of the biggest ones. Technology, chips. So I think it's a really, really a shame what we did decades ago, sending those jobs and selling the American people, hey, we can do it over there cheaper, you're going to pay a lot less. But what happens when you don't have a job? You can buy it for less, but you don't have a job. Now you're paying a lot more and you don't have a job. Not good. Not good. So think about that. It was fine. It was fine for many, many years to buy cheap goods as long as you had a job. But now the cheap goods aren't cheap, and now many people don't have a job. So we need to stop being so dependent on these countries. We need to start bringing this stuff back to America, in my opinion. Comment down below. U.S. trade deficit surges to a record ahead of Trump tariffs. Imports soared 10%, the most since July of 2020, to $401.2 billion. Exports rose 1.2% to $269 billion. So we are losing that race by a mile. The Telegraph: China says it's ready for war with America, any type of war, they said. They said this yesterday. And they're boosting their defense spending by 7.2%. So these are serious words. Ready for war. They didn't just say a tariff war or trade war. They said any type of war. So we are living in a very, very dangerous world, ladies and gentlemen. And America, I really believe, needs to start really closing the door on a lot of these countries. And I will ask all of you this for the 100th time. Why are we selling U.S. farmland to a country like China, a country that just came out yesterday and said, we are ready for war with America, any type of war, and we continue to sell them U.S. farmland? Somebody please write in the comments, tell me down below why this is a good idea. Do you really think that this is a good idea? I think that this should be illegal. It should be banned today. It should have never been allowed. And the hundreds of thousands of acres, I think they own nearly 400,000 acres of farmland in America, and they own Smithfield also, the meat processor. So why are they allowed to own a company like Smithfield, one of the biggest meat processing plants in the world, and then own almost 500,000 acres in America, agricultural land? I don't get it. And now they're threatening us that they're ready for any type of war. Not good. Really, really not good. So let me know your thoughts on that. But I think that, we're in a time now where people are going to start really feeling severe pain. Of course, they're going to lash out at this administration. Nobody wanted to be the bad guy. We just wanted somebody, to keep kicking the can down the road, keep printing money, keep telling us what we wanted to hear, keep the stock market propped up, keep the economy propped up, make fake jobs. If you don't have a job, just go get a government job. We'll make up more government jobs, make sure everybody has a job, and have, the people that work in the private sector pay for the people with the government jobs, and just this crazy, crazy cycle. A cycle that ends very, very badly. And nobody for decades wanted to be the bad guy and pull the plug on this. And now somebody is going to be the bad guy here and do what nobody else could do or wanted to do. But it's, in my opinion, it's for the country's own good. It's going to be very, very painful. Not a little painful. It's going to be very, very painful. A lot of people are going to get hurt here. They're going to lose jobs. They're going to be probably even homeless. Their lifestyle is going to change abruptly if it hasn't already, and you need to be preparing for these changes. You need to be preparing right now for these changes. For many people, it's already too late. If it's not too late for you, you better get going, because you're far behind if you haven't been preparing for this. It's not far-fetched that we're going to see, cyber attacks in this country, food shortages, more bank closures. And really another Great Depression, maybe the greatest depression of them all. And I'm just speaking out loud here. Please comment down below, give me your opinion of that. This is just a crazy time to be alive, a historical time. And again, every day it's something else. You just don't know what you're going to wake up to. So I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to rant, but really, really would love to hear what you think about what's happening in the economy right now. How bad will it get? Can it even be avoided? I don't think so. How long will it last? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Is it going to last a year, 2 years, 5 years? I don't know. How are you preparing for it? Markets got hit pretty good again today. Cryptos hit pretty good. Gold and silver stayed pretty flat, but didn't really take any big losses. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts. Comment down below, like, share, and subscribe. Talk to all of you soon.